I'm going to show you guys how I've painted my minis in just 15 minutes a day. I'm Benji and welcome to Benji's Hobbies. I think we can all agree that painted minis are so much better than unpainted minis. We spend so much of our time delving into these fantasy worlds that we love, reading and digesting vast volumes of lore, and, if you're lucky, playing on some superbly crafted gaming tables, that to use unpainted miniatures to me just completely ruins that immersion. When I play, I want my minis to reflect as closely as possible how I imagine they would be in real life, and not just bare, lifeless, grey plastic statues. Now, I completely understand why some people don't have painted armies. New players will of course take time to paint their new collections, and those building a new army may not have decided on their final list or colour scheme. Those with certain disabilities may find it difficult to paint, and some people may have some level of anxiety or apprehension about painting a new model or army. But for the rest of us, there really are very few reasons not to get your miniatures painted. One of the main reasons I hear for not getting your minis painted is not having enough time. Now this is where I'm going to bust that myth wide open. We all have busy lives that we spend doing the things that we need to do. Most of us will have jobs, families, pets, friends, sports teams that we follow or play for, and exercise regimes that we, well, try and keep up with. But personally, I think a lack of time is just an excuse for not painting your minis. If you really wanted to get them painted, then you'd find the time. Ask yourself this question: how long do you spend each day doing, well, not much at all? I know I'm personally guilty of passively scrolling through social media for far longer than I care to admit, and I find it far too easy to just sit on the sofa and watch nonsense on TV or Netflix. Some people like catching up on the news about their favourite celebrities, and some people will pick up the controller for their consoles and are able to spend hours playing video games just to pass the time. Ultimately, whether you spend too much time scrolling through your phone, watching rubbish on TV, or playing video games, we don't really achieve our hobby goals by doing any of these things. And whilst there's nothing wrong with doing any of this, I think we can all admit that we probably spend more time doing it than we'd like to. So why not even spend a tiny portion of this time getting our minis painted? With this in mind, I set out to spend a small amount of this wasted time painting a batch of minis to completion. I'm challenging myself to spend 15 minutes at least once per day to help me achieve my painting goals. My thinking is, if I've only got 15 minutes to get any hobby done, that I'm less likely to procrastinate, or jump from project to project, or get distracted by all the other shinies in my hobby room. It should also be pretty easy to find 15 minutes a day or even multiple times a day to get this done. So first, I need to find some models to paint during this challenge. I took some time to look through my pile of joy and find something to paint. Whilst it would be easy for me to pick something for a brand new army, I thought I'd use this opportunity to finish off an older project that I already have an established paint scheme for. I settled on these guys. Last year I painted up a hefty amount of Death Guard, but I still have a few bits and pieces left to paint that I never got around to, including this 5-man Plague Marine squad. So let's see how I get on getting some paint on these Nurgly boys in just 15-minute stints. I opted to go for a super simple paint method that I've used to pretty good effect on my previous Death Guard Plague Marines. I started off with models base coated in Death Guard green using a rattle can. This is the main colour across the armour on my Marines, so it makes sense to start from that base colour and add the other colours over the top. The next step is to start blocking in all the other base colours. The fleshy areas, including boils and tentacles, were all base coated in Bugman's Glow. I want some variety on my metallic areas, so I'm using both Warplock Bronze and Lead Belcher and applying them to different metallic areas on the Mini. Any cloth or clothing is painted in Screamer Pink, the eye lenses in Mephiston Red, and last but not least, all of the pipework is painted in Corvus Black. I personally really like Corvus Black for this because it's more of a dark grey than a black, so you can really see the definition when you start adding washes at a later stage. Once all the base colours are down, I applied a heavy wash of Agrax Earthshade over the entire model. Once this is dry, I applied another wash, this time Seraphim Sepia. The combination of the two washes really add to that dirty look on these Plague Marines. To highlight, I simply re-add the base colours to the most prominent edges, and with that, they're done. After only 8 days of painting for 15 minutes at a time, I managed to get these stinky, disease-ridden boys finished. Yes, it has taken me just over a week to get them done, but the way I see it, this is time that I would have otherwise probably just wasted doing something else unproductive. Now, obviously I could have just sat for 2.5 hours and got them painted, but it would have defeated the object of this challenge, and it's unlikely that I would have found a full 2.5 hours, especially with work life being pretty busy at the moment. And let's face it, I would have bound to have procrastinated or got distracted to some extent if I were to paint for a full 2.5 hours. So what have I learnt from going through this challenge? Finding 15 minutes a day to paint was pretty easy, and there wasn't a single day where I couldn't quite easily pop into the shed or even stand in the kitchen for 15 minutes and get some painting done. Whilst yes, I do have a dedicated hobby space, I don't feel like this had any bearing on how effective this technique is. I could have just as easily sat at the kitchen table or on the sofa and achieved exactly the same thing. My wet palette was particularly useful for keeping my paint hydrated from day to day, but other than that I needed minimal extra equipment or space to get this done, other than the paints, brushes and a water pot. The only thing that may have come in useful is a small hairdryer to help dry layers before applying a second one. Painting in 15-minute stints has both positives and negatives though. It was very easy to stay fully focused for that full 15 minutes, and I felt like I was challenging myself to get a certain layer or colour down within the time frame, and as a result speeding up my painting from my normal pace. On the other hand, there were times when I could have done with a couple of extra minutes to get a second coat down once the first had dried, or for going back and tidying up a previous layer. I was obviously putting my brush down after 15 minutes to prove a point as part of this challenge, so there would be nothing really to stop me from going over on my time if I were to do this again for myself. Because I was painting faster than I'm used to, there were some small mistakes made, so I did later have to tidy these up, but overall I don't think they would be drastically noticeable if they were part of a wider army. If I do this again in the future, I might take my time a little more, especially when painting intricate areas such as armour trim or decoration. Overall, I've been really pleased with how the challenge has gone. I've managed to paint another 5 models which I hadn't planned on painting, and I don't feel like it considerably eaten into time I was going to spend on other hobby projects, or the time I would spend doing anything else. While spending 15 minutes a day isn't going to get your army painted in a weekend, it does slowly and gradually get your models painted, and there's a real sense of achievement when you start seeing some results come together. After the 3rd or 4th session, I felt like I was really on my way to getting these models finished. Whilst I don't think these paint jobs will win me any golden demons, I would definitely be interested in going through the challenge again, but this time painting a single miniature to a higher standard and seeing how I get on. If this is something you'd like to see me attempt, then let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching guys. I would really encourage you to give this a go for yourselves. I'm pretty amazed at how much I managed to get done each day and would love to see the results you get yourselves if you found this useful. If you want to support me and help the channel, make sure you go and check out the links in the description below. I now have an Element Games affiliate account, so if you're going to be buying anything from them, go and click that link. The guys at Element will give me a little kickback each time you use that link as a thank you, which will really help me out. I want to say a huge thank you to my very first patron, Ben Pearson. Ben is a local legend, an all-round lovely guy. I've not even launched my Patreon yet, but Ben has managed to find it and has been a really generous patron. So Ben, thank you so much. Thanks so much for watching guys. I will see you in the next video.